Dirty Harry wasn't just another cop movie. It was a cultural explosion that redefined Hollywood thrillers and turned Clint Eastwood into a mythic icon of American cinema. But behind the .44 Magnum and the unforgettable one-liners lies a film shrouded in secrets, controversies, and behind-the-scenes battles. What audiences saw on screen was groundbreaking, but what they didn't see was even more fascinating and sometimes shocking. From lost endings to dangerous stunts to the chilling real-life inspirations that mirrored San Francisco's darkest crimes, today we uncover 25 secrets from Dirty Harry hidden for decades. Sinatra was supposed to be Harry Callahan. This wasn't Clint Eastwood's role from the start. It was Frank Sinatra's. In the late 1960s, Warner Brothers acquired the script for what would become Dirty Harry and immediately pitched it to Old Blue Eyes himself. Sinatra loved the idea, but faced a surprising setback. He had injured his wrist years earlier and couldn't handle the massive .44 Magnum revolver that would become Harry Callahan's signature. With Sinatra stepping aside, a revolving door of Hollywood's biggest names, including John Wayne and Paul Newman, were considered. Each turned it down for different reasons, ranging from scheduling conflicts to discomfort with the script's violent edge. By the time the project landed in Eastwood's lap, the role was nearly dead in the water. Ironically, Sinatra's refusal created the perfect opening for Eastwood, who transformed the project into his career-defining moment. Without that twist of fate, Dirty Harry might have been remembered as a Sinatra experiment instead of a cinematic milestone. Sometimes, Hollywood history changes on a single injury. Paul Newman passed, but suggested Eastwood. What fans never realized was that Paul Newman played a hidden but crucial role in shaping Dirty Harry. After Sinatra dropped out, Warner Brothers courted Newman, who was at the peak of his career. Newman declined, citing discomfort with the script's perceived political overtones. Yet, rather than walking away completely, Newman made a bold suggestion. Clint Eastwood should take the role. At the time, Eastwood was still primarily known for his spaghetti westerns with Sergio Leone. Studios doubted whether he could carry a gritty urban thriller, but Newman's endorsement carried enormous weight. Eastwood not only accepted, he insisted on relocating the story from New York to San Francisco, giving the film its distinctive edge. In a way, Eastwood's Harry Callahan was a direct result of Newman's foresight. Had Newman not passed and recommended someone else entirely, the franchise might never have existed in its current form. It's one of those sliding door moments where one man's no became another man's immortal yes. The gun that changed Hollywood. This wasn't just a revolver. It was a cultural lightning bolt. Harry Callahan's Smith & Wesson Model 29.44. Magnum wasn't chosen at random. At the time, it was an obscure, oversized handgun, mostly purchased by hunting enthusiasts. The moment Eastwood lifted it on screen and declared it the most powerful handgun in the world, sales skyrocketed. Gun shops reported shortages across the United States. What audiences didn't know was that the script originally gave Harry a standard police-issued .38 special. Eastwood, along with director Don Siegel, pushed to swap it out for something larger than life, something that would visually match Harry's uncompromising toughness. The studio hesitated, worrying it would look cartoonish, but Eastwood insisted, and history was made. Overnight, the .44 Magnum became a pop culture icon, referenced in TV, music, and even comedy routines. In the years after Dirty Harry, gun manufacturers reported a surge in demand they had never experienced before. The weapon didn't just arm a fictional cop. It armed a generation's imagination. Andy Robinson was almost fired. The Scorpio Killer is one of the most terrifying villains in film history, but Andy Robinson almost didn't keep the job. Studio executives were worried. Robinson, a young stage actor, looked too ordinary, too boyish for such a sadistic role. They wanted someone more visibly menacing. Director Don Siegel disagreed. He saw something chilling in Robinson's deceptively gentle appearance, a killer who could blend into society unnoticed. Robinson leaned into this by adding disturbing physical quirks like sudden bursts of giggling and erratic head movements. These mannerisms unsettled audiences so deeply that Robinson reportedly received hate mail and even death threats after the movie's release. Ironically, the very qualities that executives doubted made his performance unforgettable. His boy-next-door look, paired with his unnerving tics, created a villain that felt both real and unpredictable. Robinson didn't just play a killer, he embodied the nightmare of evil hiding in plain sight. And that gamble paid off, cementing Scorpio as one of cinema's great antagonists. Scorpio was inspired by the Zodiac Killer. This wasn't fiction pulled out of thin air. The Scorpio Killer was directly inspired by the real-life Zodiac Killer who terrorized San Francisco in the late 1960s. The parallels are chilling. Both taunted police, targeted random victims, and turned their crimes into theatrical events. In fact, the film's opening rooftop sniper scene was written after reports of Zodiac's threats to attack school buses. While Warner Brothers avoided explicitly naming Zodiac, audiences of the era immediately recognized the connection. It added a layer of dread that made Dirty Harry feel uncomfortably real. Andy Robinson, playing Scorpio, admitted he studied press clippings of the Zodiac case to craft his performance. For San Francisco residents, the similarities hit too close to home. Some critics accused the film of exploiting ongoing tragedies for entertainment. Others argued it provided a cathartic fantasy where justice was finally delivered. Either way, the film's villain wasn't just a screen invention, he was a mirror of unsolved horrors haunting the Bay Area. Clint Eastwood directed scenes in secret. What audiences didn't realize was that Clint Eastwood wasn't just starring, he was also quietly directing. During the production of Dirty Harry, director Don Siegel occasionally fell ill and had to step away from the set. Rather than delay shooting, Eastwood stepped in, calling the shots for key sequences. He was no stranger to filmmaking, having absorbed techniques while working with Sergio Leone and Don Siegel himself. But Warner Brothers didn't want the press to know that their leading man was taking over behind the camera. Eastwood's uncredited contributions included portions of the tense chase sequences and the quieter, more atmospheric shots that gave San Francisco its gritty pulse. This experience gave Eastwood the confidence to fully transition into directing just a few years later, launching a second career that would earn him Academy Awards. In many ways, Dirty Harry wasn't just the film that defined his on-screen persona. It was the hidden training ground for the legendary director he would become. The line, "Do you feel lucky?" was improvised. This wasn't just a scripted line. It was Clint Eastwood's instinct. In the film's legendary standoff, Harry taunts a wounded bank robber with his .44 Magnum. The script originally included a long, wordy speech about the power of the gun. Eastwood thought it was clunky. Instead, he trimmed it down, tightening the rhythm into what became one of the most quoted lines in film history. "Do you feel lucky, punk?" What most people don't know is that Eastwood actually delivered two variations of the line across different takes, one slightly longer, one shorter. Siegel chose the leaner, more menacing version, and history was made. That single phrase became a cultural touchstone, endlessly parodied, quoted in politics, sports, and television. The beauty of it was its simplicity. With just a few words, Eastwood captured the essence of Harry Callahan, cold, confident, and unpredictable. Improvised or not, it proved that sometimes the most iconic movie moments are born not from the script, but from an actor's gut instinct. The bus kidnapping ending was a last-minute rewrite. What fans never realized is that Dirty Harry almost ended very differently. Early drafts of the script had Harry cornering Scorpio in a shootout that ended with the killer being arrested and sent to trial. But Eastwood and Siegel felt this was too anticlimactic. They wanted an ending that underscored Harry's disillusionment with the justice system. So they reworked the climax into the now iconic bus kidnapping, with Scorpio holding children hostage as Harry hunts him down. This rewrite gave the film its most chilling sequence and set up the haunting finale where Harry throws away his badge. The moment wasn't just cinematic drama, it was a statement. Callahan wasn't quitting the force because he couldn't win. He was quitting because the system itself felt broken. The badge tossed into the San Francisco quarry pond became one of cinema's most powerful images of a lawman rejecting his institution. Without that last-minute rewrite, Dirty Harry might not have left audiences with such an unforgettable punch to the gut. Eastwood did his own stunts, at great risk. This wasn't a cushioned Hollywood set. Clint Eastwood insisted on doing most of his own stunts, even the dangerous ones. One standout example was the rooftop chase, where Harry sprints across ledges in pursuit of Scorpio. The San Francisco rooftops were real, with no safety nets below. Crew members were reportedly nervous, but Eastwood refused to use a double, arguing that the realism was worth the risk. He also handled the fight scenes and physical struggles himself, including the brutal beating in the football stadium. This commitment gave Dirty Harry a raw authenticity that audiences could feel. Every punch, every sprint, every risky leap carried Eastwood's real weight. The gamble paid off. Viewers sensed that the danger wasn't faked. But it also foreshadowed Eastwood's career-long reputation as a performer who embraced risk, often putting himself on the line for his characters. In Dirty Harry, that authenticity made the difference between just another cop thriller and a cultural phenomenon. The film nearly received an X rating. What audiences didn't know was that Dirty Harry flirted dangerously with being slapped with an X rating by the Motion Picture Association. The violence was considered extreme for 1971, especially the rooftop sniper sequence where Scorpio targets random victims. The ratings board was unsettled by the realism and intensity. Warner Brothers fought hard, trimming frames from certain scenes to avoid the dreaded X, which at the time would have limited the film's release to adult theaters and gutted its box office potential. Ultimately, the studio managed to secure an R rating, but only after heated negotiations. Ironically, the controversy only fueled public curiosity. Audiences flocked to see the movie partly because of the whispers about its brutality. What could have been a commercial disaster, instead, became a box office triumph. The near X rating didn't just threaten the movie, it helped turn it into one of the most talked-about films of the decade. The real detective behind Harry Callahan. This wasn't just a fictional tough guy. Harry Callahan was modeled on a real San Francisco detective, Dave Toschi. Known for his flashy holster and unconventional style, Toschi became famous as the lead investigator in the Zodiac Killer case. Don Siegel and the writers studied his mannerisms, incorporating them into Callahan's character. Toschi was both flattered and uneasy about the eyes. Comparison. On one hand, Dirty Harry immortalized the gritty image of a San Francisco cop. On the other, the parallels to the still unsolved Zodiac crimes made the character controversial. Toschi would later inspire another cinematic icon, Steve McQueen's Frank Bullitt in Bullitt, 1968, cementing his legacy as the real-life template for Hollywood's toughest lawmen. The stadium scene was filmed at Kezar. This wasn't a soundstage illusion. The infamous sequence where Scorpio brutally ambushes Harry was filmed at San Francisco's real Kezar Stadium. Nestled near Golden Gate Park, Kezar had been the proud home of the 49ers before they moved to Candlestick Park. By the time Dirty Harry was in production, the stadium had lost some of its glory, making it the perfect place to stage something grim and unsettling. Director Don Siegel wanted the emptiness to echo Harry's isolation in his war against Scorpio. Crew members recalled how filming in the cavernous, silent arena felt eerie, like being trapped in a public place drained of life. The chilling atmosphere added an extra layer of tension, especially during the moments where Robinson's Scorpio dominates Eastwood's Harry in a reversal of power. Instead of building a fake set, the filmmakers used San Francisco's living landmarks to ground the movie in reality, forcing audiences to see their everyday spaces as potential crime scenes. Today, Kezar Stadium is remembered not just for football, but as one of Dirty Harry's most memorable backdrops, a reminder that the line between normal life and nightmare is thinner than we think.